Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Harvey County Talk. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley. We have some special guests on the program today. Dale with Kairos Outside Ministry. He's been on the program before. If you can look back, you'll see an interview that we did with him, except for now you know what he looks like, because before it was audio only. And Melissa is on the program with us today. So how are both of you guys doing?
I'm doing awesome,
Or
Lance.
how both of you doing? I can't call you a guy, you know.
That's okay.
Anywho, so like I said before, we've been a big supporter of Kairos Ministries, Kairos Outside Ministries, and even had somebody on the program named Brad who was talking about the Kairos Inside. So this is all kind of under the same umbrella, but specifically Melissa and Dale are here to talk about Kairos Outside. So just real brief, Dale or Melissa, either one of you can take this question, but just give the audience a little bit of understanding. What is Kairos Outside specifically?
Kairos Outside is set up to demonstrate God's grace and love through Christian support for women that have been impacted by incarceration. They either have loved ones that are in prison or family members that have been in prison, or they themselves have been in prison. And the time in which they were in prison themselves, they didn't get an opportunity to partake in a Kairos Inside ministry weekend while they were there. A lot of prisons don't have that, so if they didn't get to partake in that, then they can go through a Kairos Outside weekend. To be able to attend a weekend, the woman needs to be 20 years or older. They are not, we as team members are, Christians. We're an ecumenical ministry, which means we're basically all on the same page of being a believer in Christ, but we come from different denominations.
Right.
So, but as a guest on the weekend, they don't have to be, it's not a requirement that they're a Christian. They can, whatever. So that's basically in a nutshell what the Kairos Outside is. Let's see.
Okay.
I don't know. I got it.
Go ahead, Dale.
No, if Melissa has something that you want to expand on that, because.
Well, I got a question for Melissa. I'm interested, knowing that this is exactly what Dale says it is, as far as being a ministry that it goes beyond any specific denomination. It's just, if I'm not wrong, Dale, it's a ministry that just shows the love of Christ to women first and foremost, and then those that have been affected through incarceration, either themselves or through a loved one. Would that be a easy? I mean, that puts it in a box, but that's not everything that happens, pretty much, right?
No, that's correct.
Okay, so Melissa, I got a question. You're braving it. You're coming out on the program, and I really appreciate that because I know that you have personal experience with this. Just can you give the audience a little bit about how you found yourself involved with Kairos Outside?
Yeah, actually at 16, my brother was sentenced to prison for 8 years. And so having to experience all that was hard, and we didn't know about anything like this when we were going through all this with my brother. And so I wasn't until I was like 3 years ago, actually. And a friend of mine at our church, was talking about Kairos and prison ministry. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, I would really love to be a part of it. Well, my brother has been out for 17 years. And so I didn't really see a need for me to be a guest or really anything like that. I just wanted to volunteer and be a part of it. She's like, no, you need to be a guest first. And I'm like, okay, didn't have much to go on, but just knew in my heart that it was something that I really wanted to be a part of. And so that's kind of how I came into it. So 3 years ago, I was actually a guest for the first time. And since then, I've served on team. I'm actually in line for leadership now, and it has completely changed my life. Like, I didn't realize that there were that things in that 16-year-old girl of me that still needed to be healed. And so it's been pretty special.
Yeah, incarceration for an individual in and of themselves is a traumatic experience. Most people make the decision to place themselves there. So I understand that aspect, but then to know that there's a family of loved ones, immediate and extended family, that experience the same type of trauma, and then that they're just left with to deal with it. There's just nothing.
Yeah.
There's no process or anything, and so then this aims to focus in on those individuals. So I'm interested again. I've heard a lot about the Kairos Outside, the experiences. People speak very highly of it. It's just a life-changing event for a lot of people. When you talk to this person at your church and they suggested that you participate in this program, what was it like? Just give me a little bit about how you, as an individual, when you showed up there and you experienced a Kairos weekend, what did that do for you? What was some of the things that really opened up your eyes, or how did that impact you?
Well, I have never been seen and loved on like I was from the moment I said yes. Like, I was given a team contact that reached out to me, in the months prior. And then, like, I already felt a connection, to that. And then when you get there, like, from the moment you get there, you are served. You're not allowed, like, as women, as moms, we're so used to having to do, and you weren't allowed to get your own plate. You weren't, you know what I mean? Like, we were served, we were loved on, we were pampered, and like all the things that were missed out on all those years that our loved ones were in prison, you know what I mean? Like, they kind of gave some of that back to us, you know what I mean? And we have, without going into too much, but we have a thing called table families. And like, I was sitting around this table of women and I was hearing dialogue and words and vocabulary that if you have never been in prison or never had a family in prison, none of that makes sense to you. And so, like, I was hearing all these things and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, they understood what my family was going through. And so it's like, to have that commonality of putting the pieces together and being with women who can just look at you and just, like, tears running down your face, can just feel what you felt without having to say anything. You felt validated, you felt healed, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that just, I did not realize that as a 16-year-old girl going through all of that for 8 years, everything that we actually went through, to see other people have that same experience, it was life-changing to be able to communicate with other women and hear their stories and be able to understand and feel. And because as a family, you serve the sentence as well. You know what I mean? And it doesn't ever take away from the person in prison. Like, I never want to take away from my brother's experience, because that's something completely different. But I also know, as a 16-year-old girl traveling to every single tiny county jail and prison, like, for 8 years, we followed him and we kind of lived that, lifestyle with him. And so to have other women who understood that and to know that it's okay to be mad at your loved one, you know what I mean? Because in a way, it's a ripple effect. Like, yes, they did the things, but we are a ripple effect of that. And so to have a community that can understand that and be there for you and know that all of those emotions are okay. You can still love your loved one in prison or love yourself for having been in prison or all those things, but it is a community like none other. And they are able to just really come alongside you and love you. And they just, from Friday to Sunday, I mean, just surprises and the talks and the meditations, and to just see women love on you, and to see the men that are on the team as well. Like, not a lot of women see men in a role that they are loved with no expectation back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're served by men who just genuinely love them and care for them. And so it's a vital part for women to see that men can love you without any expectation from you or anything they want from you.
Yeah, I've often said love is action, and I'm hearing some things that you're saying, which is a mutual shared experience. There's bonding that takes place with that. That the fact that I always, after I heard the first interview with Dale and Paula, and even with Brad, was that there's a lot of people that are forgotten. You know, the suffering that family members, you didn't do that. You weren't the one that made the decisions that affected you in that way. It is somebody that you love and you care about. They're your family. And then the hurt that comes with that. But for Dale, this is kind of where Dale comes in. You know, she'd mentioned that there's men that serve too, and just love on those people that are part of this weekend. And that's something that you do. So what I know in the past you had went into a little more detail about what kind of how prompted you to get involved, and it was a similar situation, if I remember correctly, where somebody at church came up and said, "Hey,"
Right.
you know, but kind of give me the perspective of somebody who's there that is what she's referencing, a male who's just there to love on people, to show Christ's love to these ladies, to understand where they're at in that moment, and just show kindness.
Yeah, well, Melissa, it was good what you just said, but you just stole everything I was going to say. So
Sorry.
Really, you know what I do? There are men on team, and we are there not only to just prepare meals for the women and serve them the meals. You know, we've got a multifaceted role or duty, if you want to call it that. It goes deep. A lot of times they'll call us, the men on team, as prayer warriors, because part of our duty, if you want to call it that, is to not only pray for our team members while we're doing our thing behind the scenes, so to speak. We're not in the same room, the community room, where the women are at while they're being ministered to through the different talks and everything that takes place. So we're not in there, but we're behind the scenes. We're in the kitchen all weekend long preparing meals and whatnot. But we have a big role of praying for team members, but mainly for the guest. We're constantly praying for the guest and lifting them up, because we want to be what the whole weekend is about the love of Christ. So it's really, really important for us to reflect, to take a look at ourselves, and to remind ourselves, who am I? Where am I coming from? Like Melissa said, you know, we don't want to have them think that there's any expectations or what is your motive or this or that. We want them to be able to look at us and just say, wow, I've never been treated like this. And I've heard it time and time and time again on Sunday. When it's about time to go home, we've got what's called a closing ceremony that gives the guest an opportunity to share what they got out of the weekend. And, you know, it's pretty powerful to hear these women open up and say, I have never experienced this kind of love and appreciation from a guy like I've received this weekend. Yeah. That's tough, you know.
Yeah.
That's a tearjerker.
Well, a word that comes to mind for me is compassion. to suffer with someone. And the volunteers that are a part of Kairos Outside, especially specifically, are there to just really ultimately suffer with those people, to show compassion to them, to understand where they're at in their place, that they've had this traumatic experience that's happened to them, and then in a world where there is nothing, it seems that I've come across that is so impactful and so purposeful in what it aims to accomplish for those people that are there being served on that weekend. And that's an amazing thing. I'm a big fan of Kairos. I'll just say that. As I learn more and hear more, it's something that just continues to open my eyes. And every time I think about it or I interview anybody from Kairos, it's like, this is the forgotten people. Yeah. That's really what it, I mean, sending it back over to you, was there ever a point in time where it became a reality to you that you were not alone in this experience? Because we talked last time about the shame. There's just a lot of shame that comes with this. I mean, people don't just openly say, hey, if you're asked in an open room, has your loved one been incarcerated? No one's, itching to raise their hand and like it's some kind of badge of honor. It's usually something that's very shameful. You don't know, you think, oh man, I can't believe my loved one did this. And then there's the walking out, the process of whatever it is that their consequences are. That's Christmases, that's holidays, that's this. And granted, that's on them, but that doesn't change the fact that, well, how many people are affected through that? And then once again, where's the counseling? Where's the love? Where's the understanding that this individual is suffering quietly, even though they didn't do anything? So is that something that touched on you when it came to the Kairos you had mentioned, where you were there and there was all these individuals that had a shared experience with you? Did that experience help open you up to understanding where others were coming from? And I mean, because I almost want to say, it seems like the way that you expressed it was, well, I didn't have anybody to talk to about this. Was there just shame and stigma that came with that for you? Or did you talk a lot about your experience before this? Or just give me a little bit about that.
Well, not really, actually. Some people knew, but we lost people in our lives because of it. You know what I mean? And so when you think that the people who are supposed to be the ones closest to you are the ones that, kind of walk away when stuff gets really hard. And so we just kind of closed ourselves off, you know what I mean? And we just kind of dealt with it within our family. Not a lot of people knew. I mean, some people knew, our family knew, and things like that. And so, yeah, you feel very isolated. It takes a lot of your time, when you have someone in prison, and it's just like you focus so much on them and wanting to be there for them that you kind of just go within yourself a little bit. And that is what our experience was. I'm not saying everybody's experience like that. So yeah, absolutely. Like when I think Saturday morning, it just kind of hit me like, oh my gosh, I am not alone. You know what I mean? And I think you're right. I think this is a forgotten group of people who are trying to do this all on their own. And it is hard, and we shouldn't have to. And so I am very passionate about Kairos, because if I know what it felt like, I know that there are others out there who feel that way as well. And so, yeah, you definitely feel like you have a family and a community that understands, and you're not alone. I was not alone anymore. Yeah. I think I even told a few people that I have a community and I have a family that understands me, and there's no judgments, that they are there strictly or wholly there to just love me, and it's incredible.
Well, and then after your experience, of being first a participant in that, then was it how long after that weekend did it take you to make the decision that you wanted to be on the other end of this, to be able to provide the same, be a part of the same ministry that had ministered to you?
It was actually the next weekend. Like I knew from the very beginning that they had talked about, now that you've been on a weekend, you don't have to be on a weekend to be on team, but you can. And I knew before I left the weekend that this is something that I wanted to be a part of. So I actually served on that next weekend on team. And I will tell you that being a guest and then seeing the outer workings and everything that goes into the weekend, it made my experience as a guest 1,000 times better, because it's like I got to see all the things that they were doing. As a guest, I got to walk in and experience it all. But then to be on team and be the one doing all the things, and it's like you knew what was coming up next. And I was so excited to be a part of now being able to share that with the women on the weekend. There is no way to describe the joy that I had. It was, I know it's silly, but I still get giddy because it's just, I know what it did for my soul and my heart. And so now to be a part of the team that gets to share that gift with other women, it's incredible.
Dale, how long have you been doing this? This has been years now.
I'm glad you asked that, because she led right into what I wanted to say about that anyway. That right there is why I've been doing this for 14 years.
14 years.
Yeah, and it's just, as she mentioned, a couple things I want to hit on is she mentioned about being isolated the times, and you go places and do whatever, you have to keep following around just to track him whatever prison or jail he might have been in. So you're isolated. You've got this, you're rejected a lot of times. And I've heard this over and over from guests that's on team or that are on the weekends is they say that, we're in prison ourselves, and, we are so isolated because we don't want to face a lot of the garbage that we hear. And, when I do a weekend, it's just, as I mentioned before, man, it's all about speaking for myself. It's all about taking myself and putting it aside and putting the guest and the team members in the forefront the whole weekend. And I got to keep checking myself, where am I at with this?
Why am I doing this? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it should be a pretty easy, you would think that when you ask that question internally, if that ever arises, why am I doing this? That there's lots of examples that you can pull from to say, I know that I impacted that person's life. I know that I impacted this group of people's lives.
Yeah. No, there definitely is a lot of opportunities. And the thing that is for me when we are on the weekend and just remembering what we are there for, like I said, to show them love, grace, and it's a perfect time for us to let them know that they are valued, that they're appreciated, that they're worthy, and just plain special. And a lot of times what I kind of envision myself doing to these guests is just treating them as if they were a princess.
Yeah.
That
they matter. They matter. When the actions of their loved one have shown them that they don't matter, how do they get shown that they do matter in a society? I got to say it again, a society that so quickly tosses away the individual that surrounds the person that made the initial decision, the bad choice. Right?
Yeah, as Melissa was saying, this in reality, this may be the one and only time that they experience being treated as a woman should be treated. And I've heard it over and over from guests on the weekends. You know, like I said, on Sunday, they'll get up there and tell it in front of the other guests and the team members that are there. So it's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, 14 years.
14 years. And then why keep going back for 14 years, Dale? I mean, I know I not to reinvent the wheel here, but I just, you know, there's I'm sure that you're probably one of, well, I'm going to assume that you're one of very few people that have done this for 14 years, or is it a situation where when people come and they serve in that role, that they just continue to come back because they see the value and the purpose in what they're accomplishing?
Well, I would have to say that the reason I keep going back is, for one, to see the results like I see with Melissa and others. You know, they go through the weekend, they get so much out of it, and then they want to be on team to share what they've got out of it. But I would have to say it really, as I mentioned it before, it keeps me in check. It reminds me and has me ask the question to myself, am I who I say I am? You know, am I this true reflection in Christ to these women? So to just keep going back helps me to reflect on that and gives me that deeper desire to treat these women, like I said, as princesses, because it may be the one and only time that they get treated like this. Yeah. Yeah. So to see the impact that we have on these guests, that's the reason, you know, it sums it up right there.
And then just, you know, often forgotten, I think that something that Christianity focuses in on is loving in spite of. Loving even those who are the most unlovable, or really in this situation, what I hear you both saying is that this ministry picks out a specific demographic or a specific group of individuals who have a shared experience that then loves on them and shows them the love of Christ, which is ultimately serving them. Just serving them and letting them know the value that they should have and how God sees them. Would you say that's a correct assumption? I don't want to throw anything out here or anything, just like I'll say it again. I'm a huge fan of this. It's something that is very unique. There's a lot of ministries, but there's none like it.
No, that's a good assumption and a good summary, all in one.
I would say we don't expect anyone to be anything but who they are. We meet them where they're at in their situation, because sadly, not every person has a good relationship with their loved one that's incarcerated. And so they really feel alone. You know what I mean? And so we don't expect anything from them. We don't expect them to be cleaned up, to be anything but who they are, which is exactly what Jesus does. He meets us where we're at in our situation, and we come alongside them and say, it's okay to have all the emotions. It's okay to feel all the things you need to feel. And we're going to come alongside you, and we're going to be there for you, and we're going to sit next to you. If you need to talk, you talk. If you need to cry, cry. If we just need to sit here, you know what I mean? Like, we just strictly meet them where they're at, and we say, it's okay. We love you, and we're going to come alongside you. And even after the weekend, I don't know if it's okay to talk about this, but we have a thing called swap meetings, where it just depends on the group and the location of where they're at, and we meet once a month, we meet every other week. You know what I mean? And so it just doesn't stop at the weekend. We are a community that continues to do life with each other. And it's not a requirement to come, of course, to the swap meetings, but it lets them know, it let me know that we're not just going to give you this fabulous weekend and then it's over.
Yeah.
We continue to be in your life, and it's a community, it's a support group, and it's amazing.
So to say that you come to the weekend and then we kick you out the door is not how that works. It's we bring you in, you experience this weekend, and then from there you can continue to be plugged in and a part of this ministry, either being served or maybe possibly doing what you chose to do and begin serving others in that capacity. So knowing that this is a nonprofit, we talked about this before, funding is probably sometimes difficult. I know a lot of different nonprofits right now, especially with the way things are, the economy, that it's starting to get more difficult to get the kind of funding necessary for things to work the way they need to work. But you guys do some different things. You don't just go out and ask for donations. You are all working, to make it happen and have different things going on. I know there's a sale that takes place where people can donate a lot of things, and then people can come and know that when they are there that they're donating, but they're also able to acquire something from that. And then there's something else that you guys have coming up here real soon in February, correct? Would you tell me a little bit about that you all have coming up?
Yeah, Lance, in February, we've got what it's called a soup and dessert fundraiser that we do. It's a good time. It's fun because we actually, we've got different soups that we serve, but then we've got desserts that they're all, handmade desserts that people bring and whatnot. But we've got a live auction that we do, and we auction off the desserts, and you'd be amazed at what some of the prices we get out of these pies or whatever they may be. But that's what we got coming up. It's February the 22nd, and it's going to be at Christian Newton, or the Newton Christian Church.
Okay.
And I guess I can give the address on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How about it?
The address on that is 210 Southport Drive, and like I said, it's here in Newton. Okay. So that is February 22nd. That's at 6 p.m. is when it starts. But that's just one of many things that we do. In October, usually we do a banquet also. And we set our standards pretty high on that. We shoot for trying to raise $15,000 for that dinner banquet that we do. And then in the summertime, we'll have a garage sale that we do, that we bring, like you mentioned, we get donations from whatever, and we have this garage sale. But yeah, there's numerous things that we do, and it is expensive. We do 2 weekends a year, spring and fall, and the average price nowadays to do a weekend is coming out to be between $7,000 to $7,500 for one weekend. But I will say, for the guests that are there or want to be on a weekend, there's no cost at all. No cost at all to the guest. So there is a lot of work behind the stage, per se, of doing these weekends, and it is a continual ministry, not just as we mentioned about when Melissa was talking about, but there's year round. We've got to be trying to raise funds or make things happen. We even have paint parties. There's a couple of gals that they either open up their house or a church or whatever, and there's people that come and they'll have a couple of designs of what they want to paint, and then these gals just make donations to this, and it's just it's kind of surprising what we make off of that.
Yeah,
they're a lot of fun.
So there's a lot of ways that we try and raise funds.
There's a lot of people that are involved in trying to be creative and whatnot.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I'll say, I remember the auction last year. Carson Hayes, who most people know here in the community, was the auctioneer for that.
That's right.
It was a great experience, great guy. Just, I mean, he pretty much did that out of the kindness of his heart, just to be able to help support this ministry and what people were doing. And just got to throw his name out there too. That it's
Good.
So many different people are a part of this and volunteering for this and making sure that this continues for those who are in need. Because I mean, I might be wrong, both of you, but I don't know of any other program or ministry that focuses specifically on the people that you focus on. I haven't heard of it. I've listened. I've kept my ear to the. I mean, I want to exclude anybody, but I don't think this is something a lot of people are tripping over themselves to do. I mean, as far as it's very unique. It's very beneficial to those who are being served. It's a very beneficial ministry for people that are wanting to serve those that need, they need loved on. They need loved on.
Yeah, that we are unique in the sense of, as Melissa mentioned, about it's an ongoing ministry. There's a lot of prison ministries out there. Nothing to be spoken against or bad of any of these ministries, because if they're ministering the Word of God to them, that's what needs to be done. But we are different because we are one that has a continued ministry. And I'll just mention about one other ministry that Kairos has. It's the youth. It's what's called Kairos Torch. So that you've got a one-on-one ministry that takes place after they do a weekend. It's the same 2.5 day weekend for the youth, and these are individuals that are incarcerated, youth, or have just been out themselves, sort of like same as Kairos Outside. But we do when they have their 2.5 day weekend. Then there's volunteers, again, that make a commitment for a one-on-one every week for 6 months, mentoring that youth. That's huge. Yeah. And as Melissa already mentioned here, we have the swap, what they call the swap, of where they have reunions and everything and meet monthly. And that's a continued ministry. Like she said, they don't have to come if they don't want to come, but it's there for them to continue. And, Kairos itself is, the name itself is it's God's special time. So an ecumenical, I mentioned about it being an ecumenical ministry, that in itself is a Greek word, which means on common ground. So we have all different walks of faith, denominations that come together on common ground, and that common ground is Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. So that's what it's about. So yeah, it's a continued ministry.
Okay, so just I want to ask you both a question. What, for somebody listening right now who is asking themselves, is this for me? I am somebody who's either been incarcerated or my loved one has been incarcerated. I know statistics are outrageous. It would surprise you how many people actually have an immediate family member that has been incarcerated. And we're not talking about just prison here. We're talking about anybody who has been put through the system. We'll just call it that. Mm-hmm. So if there's somebody listening right now that's asking themselves, man, am I somebody that should be here? Should I sign up to do this weekend? If they're not somebody in that situation, should I show up to this pie auction? Should I support this ministry? What do you have to say to somebody listening that's asking about whether or not internally they should either serve this ministry or be served by this ministry? Melissa?
I would say just try. Like reach out to someone on, and Dale will give a phone number in a little bit, but just reach out and have a conversation with someone who is a part of Kairos and see what you think would be best for you. But I would say, if you can, come as a guest first and experience that, and then go on and serve on team. I think that would be a great way to start. And you deserve it. You deserve a weekend that you can take time out for yourself. And so just reach out, talk to somebody, and see, I think if you could just have a conversation with someone, and we can help lead and guide and go from there.
Dale?
Well, I know Melissa can attest to this, and that's there's a lot of the guests, when they get there on the weekends or even prior to the weekend, they like Melissa mentioned, they have a team contact. Well, I hear so many times about these guests that they keep calling the contact back saying, I don't know if I want to do this weekend. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to expect. And they don't. But 9 times out of 10, once they're there, they're glad they made the decision. And, it's just, I hate to say it, but our world is messed up.
Yeah.
So the least they could do is step back and take a look. How can I make maybe not the world better, but how can I make myself better, and then change the world around me? So, and as Melissa briefly mentioned earlier about when the guests are together, it gives them an opportunity to open up and to share things that have never been able to be discussed before. And in doing so, that, as we've already talked about, gives them a purpose, So, yeah, it's worth giving it a try. I wouldn't say try. I don't like using the word try, really. You either do or you don't.
Yeah.
So I would say do it, because it may change your world. And, you mentioned about there's so many people that we know that are incarcerated. If you ask 1 out of 5 people, you're going to find 1 out of those 5 people have been infected by incarceration in some way, shape, or form. So it's huge. There's a lot. So, and I will say, add in here that the next available weekend that we've got coming up for the guest is April the 4th through the 6th this year. So the weekend is April the 4th through the 6th, and it's going to be in Augusta, Kansas, and I won't mention the name of it for confidentiality and whatnot, because what we do want to do is provide a safe place. So if I go and mention where we're going to be at, you could have a disgruntled husband or whatever, or somebody out there that wants to maybe just show up, and we don't want that. So anyway, like I said, it's April the 4th through the 6th. Starts Friday night, and you will have, you will have to go and get registered for the weekend or whatever. So if you got any other questions or whatnot, call this number. It's 316-706-3330, and they'll be able to help you out, answer any questions you got, and get you registered if you want to go. So. Pretty powerful.
Yeah. Okay, so as we come to the end of the program, if you've ever seen an episode of Harvey County Talk, you'll know that I always give the guest the last word. You guys can say whatever you want to speak directly to the hearts and the minds of anybody listening. What do you got for us?
I would just say you are valued, you are loved. We would love to have you be a part of Kairos in any way, shape, or form. And just know that it's okay. You're okay. And you have a community that wants to come alongside you and love on you and be a part of your life. And so I would just encourage anyone who is thinking about being a part of Kairos to just reach out, and we would love to talk to you and be a part of your life.
Dale?
We need a transformation in this world. So through the love of Christ and through the Kairos ministry, I believe that this is just one way out of many that can be done.
Absolutely.
So
Well, I
I'll
gotta
sum
say,
it up with that.
I appreciate both you and your
you.
service and who you serve, coming out here on the program and talking with me about it. I'm hoping that this reaches all the eyes and the ears that it needs to reach. And I can't thank you enough for what you do.
Well, thank you for having us.
Changing hearts and minds and lives. You know that, right?
Amen. Appreciate you, Lance.
Yeah. Well, there we have it, folks. And thanks for listening to this episode of Harford County Talk. As always, I was your host, Lance Gormley, and our guests on the program were Dale and Melissa from Kairos Outside Ministries.
Thank
See you next
much.
time, everybody.
You bet.